Well, when Galileo was arriving at his conclusions about the positioning of the planets and so forth, he was doing so because he was taking direct observations of the physical universe. He was looking at the movement of the planets and the moon through his telescope. He was doing mathematical calculations. He was collecting data, running tests, making predictions, running experiments. Galileo's conclusions fall in the realm of the empirical. And anybody with a pair of eyes could look through the telescope he was looking through and see the same stuff. Anybody with enough of a math brain could follow along with Galileo's conclusions and come to the same conclusions every time. Galileo's predictions and his conclusions would submit themselves to every test of the scientific method because they were empirical. We could experiment, we could tinker, we could find out whether this guy was on or not. So because Galileo's conclusions were in the realm of the empirical, they were able to achieve the level of 100% certainty. And because of that, the argument is over. We're done arguing about whether the Earth is the center of the solar system or not. We know empirically that it's not. Now, Darwin, on the other hand, while he was taking direct observations of the physical world, most notably what I remember are the Galapagos Island finches. And what he noticed about these finches on this remote desert island was that they had diversified throughout the island to exploit different environmental regions of the island. And those environmental regions had exerted pressure upon the organisms to affect change within the organism. For instance, he noticed that some of the beaks of these finches were longer and curved. And these long curved beaks were able to dig food deep out of, like seeds, deeply buried in the fruit. He noted that some of the finches were smaller in their body type with longer legs. I mean, this was useful for standing on the spines of cactus, different markings, different songs to attract mates. And his big aha moment, his big light bulb above his head moment was the realization that nature could do the selecting. I mean, he was already familiar with human selection. Apparently he was an avid pigeon breeder. He would have been familiar with dog breeding and animal husbandry. And so he would have been familiar with our ability to extract from the available bandwidth of information the features that we most wished to have expressed. And this is why we can get Yorkshire Terriers and St. Bernards from the canine bandwidth. So he was already familiar with that, but he realized that nature could do the selecting. And I don't have any problem with that. But that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about evolution. I'm talking about macro. I'm talking about from the goo, through the zoo, to you. I'm talking about the big picture. In fact, it's even bigger than that. It's from nothing to the goo, through the zoo, to you. I'm talking about the entire span that evolution encompasses. And I want to remind you again that the jump from nothing to microbe is mountains of orders of magnitude beyond the jump from microbe to you. So, the microevolution, what we notice that can happen within the bandwidth of available information for a species, we can call speciation or microevolution. Now, that is directly observable and testable and yields itself to every test of the scientific method. But when Darwin jumps tracks, I should say, when he endows natural selection with almost infinite capacity to change an organism, when he speculates that perhaps the finches came from the lizard, I mean, that's quite a jump. And maybe the lizard came from the amphibian. maybe the amphibians came from frogs, and the frogs came from fishes, and the fishes came from sponges, and sponges came from those simple single-celled organisms. That's where Darwin leaves behind the realm of the empirical and enters the realm of the hypothetical and the speculative. And when he leaves that realm, he leaves behind forever the possibility of achieving 100% certainty. And this is one of the things that I want to bring home as strongly as I know how, is that when Darwin jumps tracks from the directly observable to the hypothetical, we're now talking about a probabilistic degree from 0 to 99%. That's the best we can do when we're talking about the question of origins. One of the things that really bothers me about this whole debate is, and particularly now that Darwinism is so embedded within Hollywood and the entertainment industry, is how it's simply assumed as fact. Darwinism, evolution, the evolutionary theory will never achieve the level of 100% certainty. The best we can do is some degree of probability of certainty. It would at least be honest for Dawkins or Tyson or some of these other, big name evolutionists, atheists, to say that, I'm very certain that evolution is the way things. I would put my certainty at 90+% that evolution is how it happened. Now they could be 100% convinced as evolutionists, but at least an honest statement would be, yeah, I believe the evidence more firmly supports the accident proposition over the design proposition. That at least would be honest. But that's not what you hear. You hear evolution continually being spouted off as fact. You'll hear Dawkins that evolution is as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science. That statement bothers me. And I'll tell you why. It's because Darwin's theory falls into the same exact category as any courtroom case relying on circumstantial evidence. We don't have any eyewitnesses. We can't run any tests. We can't do any mathematical calculus. We can't experiment and predict. We've got to rely on inference from indirect evidence. And this is exactly like a courtroom case. For example, if I were to ask you, did O.J. Simpson murder Ron Brown and Nicole Simpson? You probably have an opinion about that. I do. I think he did it. I think he's guilty as sin. I think in a fit of jealous rage, this guy nearly chopped 2 people's heads off. I mean, look at the crime scene. It's not a drive-by. This is passion. This is rage. This is deep motive, man. The guy had means, motive, and opportunity. The bloody footprints, the bloody glove. Anyhow, the bottom line is you and I will never know with that level of 100% certainty whether he did it or not. Now me, I put my degree of certainty at about 92%. I'd be really surprised to find out that somebody else murdered these 2. But that's just me, and maybe you have a different opinion about it. That's okay. The thing that you need to understand is that Darwin's theory is in this. These are overlaps. These are exactly parallel systems of thinking. The same tools that a jury needs to arrive at a conclusion about a murder case, for example, are the same exact tools that we need to use in our discussion of the question of origins. Now, OJ's jurists got it wrong, in my opinion. I believe they left objectivity and went for an emotional argument. And this is why you spend the big money on defense lawyers. Their job is to, wave their magic wand over the top hat and start pulling bunnies out and get you looking in all different directions. And they pulled one out. It's called the race card. We had a white cop who'd used the N-word collecting evidence on a black suspect. Had to throw it out. And the jurists went for that. I think they lost objectivity in the same way that we can lose objectivity in the question of origins. Our job when evaluating this question is to remain objective, weigh the evidence, and come to a conclusion. Now, what does it mean to remain objective in this question? It means use your own brain. It means engage your own power of intellect. I would say God-given power of intellect, but whatever. You've got an intelligence in your brain. Use it. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If I were to say that O.J. Simpson's innocence is as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science, you would think that that's an absurd statement. And it is. It's totally absurd. It's like a non sequitur. The equation doesn't fit in the realm of science because it's a circumstantial case. We have to infer meaning from a stack of indirect evidence. Now, let me say another statement, that evolution is as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science. And I'm using the British accent because Richard Dawkins is a British guy, and he's actually said that. And so I got to take shots at him, you know. Forgive me. Anyhow, why does the one statement sound absurd and the other statement sound like, oh, yeah, okay, I can buy that, when they're parallel? They're exactly the same. Qualitatively, both questions are of the same nature. The question of origins and the question of O.J.'s guilt or innocence are qualitatively identical. They're different issues, but qualitatively they're the same thing. We've got a stack of evidence that we have to evaluate. We have to remain objective and draw a conclusion. We've got a stack of evidence that we have to evaluate. We have to remain objective and draw a conclusion. They're qualitatively exactly the same. So why does one statement, that O.J.'s innocence is as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science, sound ridiculous, and evolution is as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science, sound accurate? It's because we've been brainwashed. If this statement over here sounds okay to you, it's because you're wearing evolutionary worldview glasses. And it's my challenge to you to take those glasses off and look again at the evidence. So, all that to say that Galileo's conclusions were empirical and Darwin's are not. They never will be. Darwin will never be a 100% certainty equation. Darwin's theory will never satisfy as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science. It will never be that. It will never get there because we've left that realm aside and we've entered the realm of inference from indirect evidence. We're entering the realm of circumstantial evidence and we can get it wrong. We can mess up. Just like O.J.'s jurist messed up. We can mess up on the question of origins. We can get it wrong. So, my challenge to you is to use your own brain. I don't care if Dawkins and Tyson, and these guys are smart people. I don't care how many books they've read, how much books they've written, how much royalties they're getting every year for the books they've written, how many TV shows and debates they're on. They can genuinely be deceived and be really smart. They can think that what they're saying is accurate. But I challenge you to think. Think for yourself on this. Is it possible? Is it even possible that evolution will be as proven a fact as anything in the realm of science? Is it possible that evolution will be as proven a fact as the sun being the center of our solar system? It's not possible. We can't go back in time and directly observe. We can't do mathematical calculations to prove evolution. We don't have any direct evidence. Okay? I'm hammering this one. Okay, I gotta let it go. All that to say that Galileo and Darwin are apples to oranges. They're in two entirely different categories of human thinking. And the one category, you can achieve 100% certainty. The other category, you cannot. The question of origins will always be a statement of faith, whether you choose door number 1, which is the accident proposition, or whether you choose door number 2, which is the design proposition. They're both forever and always going to be what you believe about the evidence. We can't change this. Your belief that in the beginning an accident took place is qualitatively the same as my belief that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Deal with it, okay?